equations, you'll need to know first what the functions are before you can look at data and say that is that kind of function. So this first graph, what is that? Linear. Put it away. What is the second graph? Quadratic. What's the third graph? Cubic. What is that graph right there? Exponential. What's the next one? And the last one. Nope. Good job, Trent. Man, you're smart. Okay. The big three that we're going to deal with are those right there. Okay, as far as this is concerned, here's a table. What kind of function is it? What kind of function is the table trying to represent? Looking at just a table. Let's see. That table right there. What function between those three is that representing? Linear. How do you know it's linear? Well, that would be true for all of them. It goes up by the same amount. Okay. Each one is going up by 2. So if you remember looking at, probably in Algebra 1, you talked about the first difference being the same. If it's the same, then it is linear. Second table. What would that one be? Exponential or quadratic? Quadratic. Okay. The way you can tell, exponential and quadratic, even whenever we get further into these, sometimes it's tough to determine the two because they're both increasing. But if you look at the first one, this goes from 5 to 8 pretty quick. Okay? This one just goes 5 to 21. What is the same on a table if it is quadratic? Does anybody know? Think about this process right here. Doesn't go up by, well, not necessarily. This one it does, and that can kind of get us to where we need to be. But if those are if that's my first difference, positive 1, 3, 5, 7, what's the pattern in these? Those are increasing by 2. So if you're looking at a table, if your second difference is the same, it's going to be quadratic. And then for exponential, you're not thinking difference, you're thinking multiplication. Every y value is multiplied by 2 to get the next y value. Okay. So everything we've looked at right here, graphs and tables, these are all nice and neat and perfect. All this data would fit a nice, neat equation for all of these. What we're going to do from here on is we're going to make a scatter plot, and we're going to find an equation that best fits it. That doesn't mean that the equation is going to be perfect and it hits every point, but we're going to find an equation that fits it as close as we can get it. Okay? So there's a lot of stuff, a lot of settings that you have to change in the calculator. So, which first period already did, but I need you to know how to do it. So I want everyone to reset the calculator. So second plus 712. Okay. So we're going to go through this process. These tell us what kind of equation they want us to find. You will not always be given that. A lot of times you'll just be asked to use the calculator to determine the equation that best models the data. And you'll have to figure out which one it is. But the big thing I need you to do is to turn the diagnostic on. And that's going to give us an R value. So to do that, and everybody follow me here. You're going to hit second 0. That takes you to the catalog. This is every operation that this calculator can do alphabetically. But instead of sitting there and scrolling down all the way, if you find the button that has x to the power of -1, it should have a D above it. If you hit, it's right there on the far left column. If you hit that button, it'll jump down to the D's, and you can get to diagnostic on, and then you'll hit enter, enter. So let's go through this first one. It's going to be quadratic. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to go to Stat Edit. And this gives you a table that you can put numbers into. You're going to put your x values into L1, your y values into L2. So after that, you're going to go Stat Edit. And on Stat Edit, you're going to have the option to do quadratic regression, exponential regression, or linear regression. Okay? And it just says quadreg, linreg, expreg. So this one is going to be, I said Stat Edit, not Stat Edit. You're going to go Stat, you'll go over to Calc, and then that gives you the menu that you're going to go down to quadreg. Whenever you do that, you should have something that says X list, Y list, frequency list, store, reg, equation, and then calculate. On that screen, before we get it to calculate the equation, we're going to get it to also copy and paste the equation into Y1. Alright, so then you'll have to kind of write this step in over there. To get it to do Y1, you're going to hit alpha, trace, enter. So whenever you hit alpha trace, you'll see a little menu pop up from the bottom of the screen that says Y1, Y2, Y3, Y4, whatever. Okay? So you'll move your cursor right after store, reg, EQ, and you're going to put Y1 right there. Okay, that's alpha trace enter. And then go down to calculate, hit enter, and the equation that should give you is this right here. So you want to make sure that you are getting this equation.
Coach, are we going to get a chart to tell us how to do it?
Hey, Coach Howard, I'll be back.
We have to memorize it.
You'll need to know how to do it.
Yeah, I'll be back in a second.
So you're going to do the same thing, but now instead of quadratic, you're going to pick exponential regression. You're still going to do Stat Edit. You will put this data in. You can just type it over the old data. Okay. Once you have that, you'll go Stat, Calc, exponential reg is option 0, and then you will hit and make sure that you do the alpha trace on there. Once you practice that, I'll kind of, whenever we get to a problem where we'll need that, I'll explain exactly what that's doing for us and how that's going to save you a lot of time. Okay, so do this one real quick.
I don't know what I'm doing.
Okay, on 4, here's the equation that you should have gotten. Now, you may have struggled with how to write this. We haven't gone through the exponential unit yet. But that's how you would write that right there. If you got that equation, go ahead and go to 5. That one's going to be linear. You put that into the store reg EQ. What that stands for is, where do you want to store the regression equation? Okay, if you put y1 there, then it's copy and pasting the equation that it's coming up with into y1. Whenever you have to make a prediction with that equation, and later in the notes we'll have to do that, having that into y in the y equals is going to save you a lot of time. For example, if on the number 3, if you look up there, let's say I asked you what is y whenever x is 5.6. If you don't have that, then you're going to have to do negative 9.59364192, whatever that problem was, and then put 6.5 in there. Plus 43.21987, whatever that number was. And that's going to take a long time typing that out, as opposed to just jumping to that x value in the table in your calculator and looking at the y value. Okay, it's going to save you a significant amount of time doing it that way. The linear equation that you should have gotten on number 5 is going to be negative 38.349x plus, okay, 472.482. Yeah, go ahead and put 3 decimals, unless specified. Yes, ma'am.
Will you explain again what to do to get to this part?
Alright, so on this, at the bottom, every time you got an equation, if you noticed, at the very bottom, there's an r squared. Sometimes there's an r too. The r squared, what this is for, this is what we turned on at the beginning, the diagnostic on. The closer that number is to 1, the more accurate that equation is. Alright, so if I was to give you an equation and I said which one of these, well, there's a couple ways you can do it, but that's going to tell you how accurate it is. Usually that number is going to be 0.99999 something. Okay, it's at least going to have 1 or 2 nines at the very beginning. If you do an equation and that's 0.6 something, you probably need to pick another regression. So that's just kind of a way at the bottom of the screen that gives you the equation. If that number is nowhere close to 1, that you probably have the wrong function. You're probably dealing with the wrong function. Okay. All right. Let's go to the next page. So now we've got to figure out, looking at the data, what function we're looking at. Okay, what regression we need to use, because pretty much from here on out, you're going to have to figure out whether it's linear, quadratic, or exponential. Okay, so it's going to be the same. It's going to be the same process. So go ahead and put this into stat edit. Kind of follow along with me up here. Instructions on how to turn the scatter plot on. They're right here, but I'm going to show you a different way to do it. Okay, I mean, that way will work. But if you go to the y equals screen, so just click y equals. And if you arrow up to where it says plot 1 and hit enter, it's going to highlight that. All right, so that can turn it on. Just y equals, go up, hit enter, it's on. To graph it so that it will kind of automatically make it to where you can see all the scatter points that you put on, you can hit zoom 9. And that kind of gives you the shape that you're looking at. Is anybody not seeing this on their screen? Alright, so looking at this, we said that it is exponential. So if you're still kind of with me, you can follow. So now I'm going to go stat, calc, exponential regression. Now mine's going to look a lot different than yours right here because this is the old operating system. This is a lot longer process than what y'all have to do. And then that will give me the equation for that. Make sure you're writing this correctly, which we haven't gone through. We haven't done exponential in here yet. So that is what you should have gotten for that equation. Alright, so on that one, on 7, you should have found that it was quadratic because you had a scatter plot that kind of looked like this, but then it had a couple points that curved down. So because of those points, because it's increasing and then it's going to start to decrease, that would tell you that it is quadratic. And the equation that you should have gotten on that should be this right here. Okay, on this one you should have gotten, on 8, this should have been the equation that you got. Okay, so after that, I want you to jump to number 11 on the back. Don't do 9 or 10. Go to 11 because this is the one where I'm going to show you doing the alpha trace and copy and pasting it into y equals. This is where you're going to see the amount of time that's going to save you if you're interested in getting the correct answers and passing tests and stuff. Okay, so you should be finding the equation. If you didn't look at the scatter plot to see that it needs to be quadratic, your classmates just told you. So you're going to quad reg to get that equation. Whenever you get that equation, stop there and let's talk about how we're going to answer this question on this one. Alright, so the equation you should have gotten on this was this right here. The other way that you can do this, okay, is if you did the copy and paste, which this is why I've been telling you to do this. Now what I want you to hit is I want you to hit second window. That's going to take you to a menu where it says table start. And right there where it says table start, I want you to hit 40. And then you're going to hit enter. Nope, sorry, don't hit enter. That just takes you down a line. Hit second graph, go to your table. And that takes you to the x value, and that y value is your answer. Which on that, you should have gotten what? 30.199. Okay. So with that, I want you to turn it over. We're just going to do one more on the back, and we'll be done with notes. I want you to do number 13. Okay?